Okay, so now we're going to take a look at how to read a score that contains instruments that are transposing. To begin with, you may want to look up in your textbook or on a chart what instruments transpose and what instruments are in C. It's not too difficult. Most of the instruments are C. Most of the orchestral instruments are C instruments, such as the flutes, the oboes, and the bassoons that I've circled here. And because of that, you can look at the key signature and you can figure out what key the piece is in. And from there, you can really tell which instruments are not playing in C right away. Another clue, all of the string instruments are also C instruments, though the bass can transpose down an octave. So first of all, let's just look at these instruments and notice the key signature for the C instruments is 4 sharps. And if you know this piece by Strauss, Richard Strauss, Don Juan, you might imagine Don Juan was this very sort of egotistical womanizer, and for that reason, right away, you might automatically presume that this piece would be in major, since this guy is really big on himself. And yes, it is in E major, and you could look over here maybe in this and to figure this out. If you look at maybe over here, this chord. Okay, it's very high, but you can see an E major chord there. Maybe if you look with the bassoons. Okay, it's definitely an E major chord there. So and it has an E major chord. What about the other instruments? Okay, we already mentioned in the last part of the video instruments that have a name with a letter in it, such as clarinet in A or A clarinet, or horn in E or E horn. These instruments are transposing. And again, to remind you, when you see the letter name, that means that when you ask this instrument to read a C in the score, out comes, for the clarinets, an A. And for the horns, out comes an E. So that tells you what the transposition is. And you can confirm this with the key signature. Alright, this gets a little bit confusing, but just like we did before, we're in E major for all the C instruments. I'll write in red for the transposing instruments. So the clarinet is in A. So we want to think about the relationship between E and, well, how should I do this? This key here. Okay, so this looks like G major, right? So if you notice here, okay, I don't want to confuse you. Let me start over here again. Okay, the relationship between C and A, okay, the clarinet is going to transpose down a minor third. And as you can see, actually, let me make sure I get this right. So to do this correctly, when we want to hear a C in this instrument, okay, so we have to transpose the key up a minor third. So from E to G. Actually, I probably should make this arrow. No, this is right. Okay, so C instrument is going to sound down to A. So to write it, we need to go up a minor third. All right, let's take a look at the horns. Now the horns, they don't have a key signature, so this might confuse you. All right, but we can figure this out. So a C down to E, or maybe you can think up to E, but it's down. So when you ask it to play a C, out comes the note that's a minor sixth lower. So this is minor sixth. To write the key, we're going to have to write the pitches, we're going to have to go up a minor sixth. Okay, so it's going to sound a minor sixth lower. Okay, so let me just write this. Sounds a minor sixth lower. This one sounds a minor third lower. Okay, now we can figure out how, let me erase these ugly red lines here. Okay, so the key that the horn is playing in, you can't see it, but since it sounds a minor 6 lower, we need to write it up a minor 6 from the key of E. So guess what? This is going to confuse you, I am sure, but they are actually playing in the key of C. So even if they were to put a key signature, it will look the same. It's no accidentals. So they're reading in the key of C. Alright, now let's find out what notes they're actually playing. And there is one other instrument that's transposing. You can notice the English horn here, the key signature is B. So since this key is B, can you figure out what is the transposition for the English horn? Well, it looks like it sounds, it's written a half step lower. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not right. It's written a perfect fifth up from the key. So it must sound a fifth lower, like the horn, right? So the transposition, it sounds a P5 lower. This one here sounds, the clarinet sounds a minor third lower. This is supposed to be an arrow here. These horns sound a minor 6 lower. Okay, now we're going to try to figure out what sounds you're actually hearing from these instruments. Okay, we'll start with the English horn. The English horn transposes a fifth down. The first note you see there is a D natural. So if I were to write it, I'll write it in blue to show you what it's going to sound like in the key of C. It's a G natural. Okay, so it's just basically a P5 down from that D. And I could continue on playing again in this key signature of B. I could continue playing on following the intervals here, but playing them with the key signature of E. I'll do that in a second. All right, let's go to the next chord in the clarinet. All right, the clarinet sounds down a minor third. So the first note is an E flat. That is going to sound as a C natural. The B flat down. This is so tiny. Pardon me. I'm going to have a hard time writing this. This is a G. So the lower note is a G. Okay. And that's the first. So this. I'll circle the note in red. Those are the notes in red, and the notes in blue are the sound. So red is written, blue is the sound. Let's go to the horns down here at the bottom. Okay, they go a minor 6th lower. So the C, minor 6 down, is going to be E. The E flat, it's going to be a lot of ledger lines, is a G. Not too bad. Okay, oops, not flat. Again, it's a minor 6 down, so it's going to be a G. These crossed voices here, so what does that mean? That's kind of interesting to just to observe this. The crossed voices mean that the instruments begin crossed. I couldn't tell you why, but that does mean that the horn 4 is playing above horn 3 at that point. Just has something to do with the line. If you look at it closely, I know what the reason is. Okay, so the third horn plays a descending line, and the fourth horn plays an ascending line, but they begin with their crossed, right? And then they join on the B flat, and then they go in their directions. So that's why that is crossed in the beginning there. What notes are they actually playing? Okay. Well, that C, again, is down a minor 6. So it's going to be playing, did I do this correctly? Yeah, it's going to be playing an E. And then the A flat, okay, I probably should put these stems here so you can see what's going on. That's that note. These look like this, right? These look like this. I'll put the stems in so you can see. All right, and the A flat down a minor sixth is going to be C. I think I already put the stems in the wrong. No, I didn't. Okay, so let's see. C. It's gonna look like this. I don't know why I was. Okay, and then this has to be flat. Okay, like that. That's not right, is it? No. I just said minor sixth is C natural. Okay, so the first chord, if we want to make a comparison, is a C major chord. So if you look at all the voices, now it makes sense. Before it did not. So if you look, if you just look vertically here, without knowing anything, and if I just play that on the piano as it is, without changing, without transposing, that chord would sound something like this in the voices. If I can do this, right? So it's not going to sound right. Actually, if you don't transpose. If you transpose it, it's going to sound like this. Okay? So it's really, really important to understand these transposing instruments. If you don't understand it, you can't direct a band. You will be lost. So you really have to conduct an orchestra. Same thing to write for orchestra. You must understand these transpositions. All right. I think that's it for this video, and I highly recommend you go and take a look at some scores that include transposing instruments. See if you could do what I just did. Figure out what the actual notes they're playing. See if it makes sense to you. Transposed is a simple C major chord. Not transposed, well, you're not going to be able to understand what that first chord is. All right, thanks for watching.